The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 was one of the most significant events of the 20th century. But what caused it? Political corruption, economic inefficiency, and social unrest were all contributing factors. And today, we're seeing the same issues emerge again, not only in Russia but all across the globe. From Washington, D.C. to Beijing, and even in the heart of Europe, these historical lessons are as relevant as ever. So what can we learn from the fall of the USSR, and how are we repeating its mistakes today? This video will focus on the economic issues. The Soviet Union was built on a system of centralized economic planning, where government-controlled production, distribution, and consumption were widespread. In theory, this should have worked. After all, the Soviet Union had an abundance of natural resources and a large labor force. But in practice, the Soviet economy was rife with inefficiency, stagnation, and corruption. Centralized planning meant that key industries were often mismanaged and consumer goods were always in short supply. By the time the USSR collapsed, its economy had been in decline for years. The government's focus on industry-heavy and military production left little room for innovation or consumer-oriented products. As a result, the average Soviet citizen had to wait in long lines for basic goods, often with limited selection. Meanwhile, the leadership continued to pour their resources into military spending and maintain the arms race with the United States, exacerbating the country's economic problems. Now look at the global economy today. While the U.S. economy is the largest in the world, it also suffers from similar problems of inefficiency and unequality distribution of resources. The U.S. economy is growing in some sectors, particularly technology and finance, but these industries often overlook the needs of the ordinary working-class people. Economic inequality is at its highest level in decades. The middle class is shrinking. At the same time, automation and outsourcing have caused many traditional industries to collapse, leaving millions without stable paying jobs. Economists like Joseph Stiglitz have pointed out that the growing divide between the rich and the poor is not just a moral issue, it's an economic one. When the wealthiest few control the majority of the resources, it stifles innovation and economic mobility. It's just like the Soviet Union in the sense that the country's wealth wasn't just being used to improve the lives of its people, leading to stagnation. And just as the Soviet Union prioritized military spending over consumer needs, we see a similar trend in the U.S. today. Despite a growing national debt, military expenditure remains one of the largest budget items in both the U.S. and Russia. In 2022, the U.S. spent over $800 billion on defense, while many social programs like healthcare and education continue to face cuts. The lesson from the Soviet Union is clear. Economic imbalance, whether it's from inefficiency, mismanagement, or over-prioritizing defense, can lead to collapse. Without a system that focuses on sustainable growth, innovation, and the well-being of all citizens, no economy is safe.